views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Are you ready to heal your mind, body, and spirit? You can give yourself the gift of whole body wellness. Stay tuned for the next hour as Audrey Michel brings you the new hit show, Rewired Life Radio. Learn to love, heal, celebrate. On Transformation Talk Radio, Audrey is going to take you on a journey to healing and wellness by sharing her infinite wisdom and creating incredible conversations with the expert guests she brings on. Get ready to rewire your life. Here is your host, Audrey Michel.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rewired Life Radio, where we learn to love, heal, and celebrate. I'm your host, Audrey Michel, and today we are talking about acting on intuition. And we're doing things a little bit different. I am going to be my own guest. So my intent when this show started was to bring on weekly guests to further explore topics beyond my own knowledge. And as I was reaching out to women, this week's topic of acting on intuition just wasn't aligning with anyone, at least not at the top of their list. And the date was seeming difficult because of the holidays and, so on and so on. Like, the universe was just like, this is not what's happening today. And I was getting frustrated. And so one night, Aaron and I were talking, and I was sharing my frustration. And he's like, why don't you just do it? Teaching women how to get quiet in order to hear what their body and their intuition has to say is totally your thing. And I sat there for a minute, feeling into the idea, and yes, he was right. Acting on intuition is absolutely my topic. So here we are. So stay tuned for the next hour as I take you through my story to listen to my body, to honor intuition. I'll be sharing my ups and downs as well as my experiences, how my experiences have shaped my work in the world as a spiritual growth coach. I will be sharing stories from my book, insights into my coaching practice, and a little bit more about my online class. So I have to tell you, this whole journey has been an exercise on acting on intuition. From a micro situational standpoint to a 30,000-foot view of my journey, Rewired Life Radio started as a little idea in August when Dr. Pat's staff had reached out to me with the idea of coming on as their Women in Health host on Wednesday afternoons. And to be honest, Aaron and I were about to board a flight to Bali, and I was just like, yeah, I mean, this sounds cool, but can you call me in a month? Like, definitely not in the headspace to talk about business possibilities. And of course, they were like, yeah, sure, no problem. Like, have fun. We'll talk to you in a month. So they call me again, and if you know me, we've gone through quite a bit of transition here. So they call me again, and I'm like, yeah, we're buying a house. Like, my brain is wrapped up in house showings and trying to figure this thing all out. I was like, can you just call me again in a month? Like, again, still want to further the conversation, but like, don't have the brainwaves for this. And of course they did. I think, a month later they call me and I'm like, so I have an 8-week-old puppy that pees everywhere and chews on everything and I can't concentrate. And it was so cute because each time the producers and I would have just enough of a conversation to further things along just a bit to keep me interested in this idea of being on the radio. And finally, they told me, you know what, don't worry about it. We're not going anywhere. Dr. Pat really feels like this partnership is meant to be, so we'll wait for the timing to be right. And they did. It took about 6 months from the time this little seed of an idea of being on the radio was planted until I was settled in my new house, settled into my office, and Olive was to the point where I didn't have to like helicopter mom her and be like, don't chew on that, don't pee there, we're going outside. That I could actually like sit and concentrate and be in a creative space and start putting my focus on this idea of a radio show. And so that was a total intuitive situation, not only between me, but between Transformation Talk Radio and Dr. Pat and her staff. And my like I said, my intuition just kept leading me back to doing this show. And so here I am a month in and totally loving the energy it creates. Wednesdays are now like my most productive day and it's super fun. Okay, so let's get going. I've been collecting some questions from been collecting questions that I get from ladies when I'm out and about, either speaking or at networking events. So I thought we would just play a little bit of a game of get to know your radio show host today. So one of the questions when it comes to acting on intuition that I get most often is, how did you decide to start doing what you're doing? How did Rewired Life come to be? So in March of 2012, it was my line in the sand. And if you know a little bit about me, I had about a 2-decade struggle with chronic pain and disease. And by March of 2012, I had been relatively pain-free for a while, but my line in the sand was this moment when I became medication-free as well. And as that year went on, I became more and more open about my 17 years of chronic pain and disease. And the more I healed, the easier it was for me to say, I have endometriosis out loud. For years, I would barely get through the idea of like, I have endo. And I would just start crying about it because it was just a big thing. And like I said, by the time 2012 had rolled around, I was healing to the point where it was just like, yeah, I have this thing. It's been a struggle. And so the two kind of went hand in hand. The more I spoke about it out loud, the more I healed. And the more I healed, the more I could dig deeper and share even more about my story. And so I started a blog. So I started the Rewired Life blog, and literally it was just for me, right? Just getting my story out there, whether somebody read it or not, just sharing my experience with chronic pain and endometriosis. And to be honest, for the most part, I figured it was like my mom and my husband and my bestie that were reading it. And it really didn't matter to me. It was this cathartic process that enabled me to let go of trauma. Again, the more I spoke about it, the more I healed, the more I was able to speak about it. And in the spirit of acting on intuition, of course, good old Facebook, this workshop came across my newsfeed about writing your own book. And I kind of sat there with it and was just like, felt so pulled to say yes. So I did, right? I say yes to go into this local workshop on a Saturday, having no idea what I was doing, just having this feeling like, I think I need to explore this idea more. And the workshop was full of ladies like me, just with this smidgen of an idea that maybe writing a book was something they wanted to do, whether it was now or somewhere in the future. And I just kept being present. I just kept saying yes and, participating the best way I knew how. And I'll be darned if by the end of that day, I had a table of contents to a book and an introduction, and I was hooked to this idea of writing my story and organizing it in a way that made sense for other people to read it. And so from then on, I've just been saying yes to the next thing that came up. And so Gabby Bernstein, I'm a big fan of Gabby Bernstein. I've done her Spirit Junkie Masterclass. And one of the things she says is, when the universe calls, will you answer with love or will you answer with fear? And answering love is how Rewired Life came to be. I, Audrey Michel, did not decide to do this thing. The universe literally hit me in the back of the head and said, you get to do this. And I've just been saying, okay, what's next? And I just keep saying it. So another question I get most often is, how did you find yourself on a spiritual journey? And this is one of the things, like, I wish I had this beautiful experience of being like, shifting into this idea of being a spiritual being, and, some romanticized version of a spiritual awakening. And the day I finally listened to internal wisdom was, quite honestly, the worst day of my life. So again, to quote, I love Gabby Bernstein and Marianne Williamson. And so Marianne says, pain, discomfort, anxiety, and guilt, and all of these heavy feelings stem from being separated from yourself. And my spiritual journey started because I had been so separated from myself that it was like this explosion, and I had nowhere else to go. So if we back up a bit, in 1995, at the age of 14, I was diagnosed with endometriosis, which, if you're unfamiliar with the disease, it's a disease of a woman's reproductive organs. So essentially, the lining of my uterus grows elsewhere. And for, many women, it shows up in many different ways. But for me, it showed up as my abdominal cavity attaching itself to like my kidney, my colon, my intestines. And so it's like these little sticky cells that kind of start to take over the inside of your body and cause a lot of pain and destruction and other issues. But so, like many people, myself and my parents, again, I was 14, we headed down this path of, getting to the bottom of pain and disease, and how do you make the pain go away? How do you manage this disease? And I did that for over a decade. I did exactly what the experts told me to do. And while I was seeing some physical relief now and then from pain and disease, the separation from myself was building beneath the surface. And so my spiritual journey began one super ugly day when I realized that medication could no longer take my pain away. And because the pain was no longer physical, it was emotional and spiritual. That's why the medication literally didn't work anymore. And I write about this in my book. It came to be known as Cereal Bowl Day, literally has its own chapter. In an ugly fit of rage, I quit. I quit many things that day. I quit taking the dozens of pills that had been prescribed to me over the years. But mostly that day, I quit ignoring inner wisdom. And all of a sudden, I realized that I didn't know the difference between myself and a side effect. I didn't know if I was tired or if one of the pills was making me tired or if I was having crazy mood swings or if it was another side effect. And for the first time in my life, that became more important, knowing if it was how I felt or if it was a side effect. And that was the shift for me. All of a sudden, the short term, just make the pain go away, I'll do anything to just make the pain go away, was outweighed by the idea of getting to know myself. And, once I realized the pain was still there with all these pills, like there were days that I would tell you my pain level was a 10 and I was taking plenty of pain pills and muscle relaxers and mood stabilizers and the whole spiel. And I just came to the point where I'm like, what's the point? What's the point of all of this if I'm still in pain? And if my pain level was the same with or without meds, why am I taking them? So I quit. So my day of spiritual awakening was a place of complete desperation and exhaustion. Maybe not the best, most logical time to quit taking prescription medication, but it is what I did. And now I know I wouldn't change it for the world. So the question I want to explore in the next hour is, if for the first time I finally listened to inner wisdom was such a disaster, how can I get to a place of listening and honoring myself sooner in a more graceful way? So we need to take a break. You're listening to Rewired Life Radio and Transformation Talk Radio with me, Audrey Michel. You can learn more about my book, coaching, and free meditations at audreymichel.com. So we'll be right back, and we're going to continue chatting about acting on tuition. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Connie Five, your unstoppable diva, your host of Up or Out with Connie. I am thrilled to be a headline show on C-Suite Network, where you can grow your brand, grow your tribe, and be unstoppable. We are the hottest podcast for entrepreneurs, C-level executives, and market leaders. And you can hear me each week right here on the C-Suite Network. Also on Conscious Business Network, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, SiriusXM, and over 900 stations around the globe. Be sure to follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. Thanks for listening. Be bold, be connected, and be unstoppable.
Tune in to The Jen Royster Show, intuitive guidance to inspire your life, each Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. This amazing show is an inspirational hour that will take you on an epic metaphysical journey to discover the spiritual approach to life's greatest challenges. Dr. Jen is an internationally known intuitive counselor, spiritual teacher, and energy healer. Call in for intuitive readings and visit JenRoyster.com for more information.
Discover the healing medicine from the giant monkey tree frog Cambo. Cambo practitioner Ginny Rutherford and professional psychic Todd Rolson have come together for lively discussions of alternative healing medicines from the Amazon. Ginny and Todd bring you Cambo Talk Radio. Tune in each Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific to hear from guests all over the world with real life stories and the medicinal benefits of Cambo. For more information, visit cambokiss.com.
Are you feeling stagnant or blocked in your love life, career, health, or finances? Experiencing difficulty focusing or setting and achieving goals? Tune in to Spiritual Diagnostics Radio with psychic visionary healers Carol Dorian and Justice Welling. Discover the cause and effect of unwanted patterns in life. Tune in every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. For more information, visit spiritualdeed.com.
Get ready to experience Truth Talk Radio with host Deb Acker. Tune in to Truth Talk Radio each Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com to illuminate the truth in your daily life as you experience life, love, and abundance from a whole new perspective. This hit show will leave you feeling lighter and bring you into a place of infinite possibilities every day in every way. Visit TruthTalkRadioshow.com for upcoming transformative topics and guests. Tune in to Mainstream Metaphysics Radio to harness your connection with the universe to effect change for optimal success and happiness. Named one of the country's top psychics, Eve now brings her insights and gifts to this weekly hit call-in show, joined by visionaries, leaders, and gifted others, but mostly you. Jot it down, Thursdays, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Hi there, we're back on Rewired Life Radio, where we learn to love, heal, and celebrate. I'm your host, Audrey Michel, and today we're exploring the idea of acting on intuition. And before we continue, I'm going to make sure everyone is able to find more information about how we can work together. From free meditations to one-on-one coaching, more information is available on my website at audreymichel.com. Okay, so we've been talking about acting on intuition, and in the last segment, I shared about how my beginnings with acting on what my intuition had to say weren't exactly glamorous. I always joke about how I thought something as big as choosing to quit decades worth of medication would be some sort of serious discussion, sitting at the kitchen table, really weighing the options and really considering the outcome and pros and cons and the whole deal. And it wasn't. It was this day where I was completely out of my mind, totally crazy, angry, desperate, ugly crying. And that's exactly where I needed to be. Out of my mind is exactly what I needed to do to be able to listen to my body and listen to intuition. And it's because our bodies hold a wealth of information that our logical mind can't exactly access. And so that's what I want to continue to discuss in this segment. Getting out of your logical mind and into your heart, listening to intuition and acting on intuition. And I think the biggest question is how, right? How do you get in touch with intuition, especially if it's not a skill that you're used to utilizing? So first, like anything else, acting on intuition is a muscle that you have to grow, which means patience. So my whole path to healing has been, and the one that I teach now, is this process of loving yourself, healing your body and mind, and celebrating life. And for me, the key is love yourself first. So I have a story I like to share, and this is, again, like back in 2012 when I was I was going to start this blog, and I was trying to figure out what to name it, and Rewired Life had come very quickly. But then I wanted to explain a little bit more about what Rewired Life was. And I was like, it's my process, right? My process to healing. And I was in a masterminds group at the time, a business masterminds group of all women. And I remember taking my idea to the round table and being like, I really feel like my healing process was all about loving myself and then healing, and all the while celebrating. And I'll never forget, there was a woman in the group who is and was a psychotherapist, and she's like, no, I think you have it backwards. Like, you have to heal, and then you'll love yourself. And I just kind of sat there and was like, no, not at all. I got real clear in that moment that loving yourself first was vital, because if you're healing first and waiting to love yourself until you're healed, you're just continuing this cycle to chase the ever elusive, I'll be happy when, right? I'll be happy when this happens or that happens. And the idea of healing first and then loving yourself was like, well, I can't, it's a never ending cycle. And it was incredible how clear I got in that moment as this woman was like, are you sure? So yes, loving yourself first is about being compassionate with yourself. And if you can love yourself in every moment, you can love yourself through acting on intuition. Because here's the deal for me anyway. Acting on intuition has been some of the scariest leaps I've ever made. And if I can't love myself through this idea of standing at the edge of the cliff and just trusting myself and loving myself through this fear that as I jump, I'm going to grow wings, is if you can't love yourself through that, then how are you supposed to do these things in life that your intuition is potentially asking you to do? So like I was saying, learning to act on intuition is like everything else in life. You start at the bottom, and we start with our little infant legs. If any of you remember learning to swim or to ride your bike, like how terrified were you the first time you jumped off the diving board? I mean, I swear this is how I like to do it. I like to jump off the 10-meter platform first instead of like, maybe starting by jumping off the side of the pool into the shallow water and then into deeper water and then eventually onto the board. But no, I really love jumping off the 10-meter platform and just like nose diving and hoping I grow wings. But my point here is learning to act on your intuition is the same thing, like having the courage to make the small jumps first. So start small and be curious. Some of the things that I find that are easier for me to consider are, what if you intuitively chose what time to go to bed based on your intuition, but then actually did it? Or you choose what to have for lunch based on intuition and actually did it. So I have a challenge for you. For the next 24 hours, just listen to the messages that your intuition is sending you. And then pay attention to what your brain does next. So here's the interesting part is when your brain kicks in, what does it have to say? So mine likes to argue with me. If I'm like, you know what, I could really use to go to bed at 8 o'clock tonight. Like, I'm so tired. And my brain likes to be like, oh, we don't have time for that. We have too much to do. Like, you get to go to bed when you're done doing all of the things. So just notice. Just notice what your brain has to say. And my guess is it's something like, oh, I don't have time for this. I don't have the money for this. It's not the right time. Nobody's going to understand what I'm talking about. But I just encourage you to be curious, be judgment-free, and just notice. And maybe take record and see if there's a pattern of how you're greeting yourself, how you're greeting these intuitive messages. One of my favorite excuses for not listening to my intuition is that I don't have enough information, right? So that if we take this radio show, for example, I think it's safe to say that in August, I already knew that the answer was yes. My heart knew that I was going to be doing this radio show. Now it took 8-9 months for it to, to do all the background things and get it off the ground. But even then it took 4 months for me to sign the contract and say yes. And I think where the exploration can be in this was all the gathering of information, all the questions that I asked and the information and, what is your demographic and, all of those things. Yes, it's good to know who I'm speaking to, but at the heart of it, my intuition knew the answer. And, where this fear comes from is that we need to listen to our brain. Is it fear of failing? Is it, just look at for yourself, what is it that's showing up in these moments of I already know the answer is yes, but I haven't committed to the yes. What is in that space? And I like to know that everything is in order and right the first time. So that's what shows up for me. So I encourage you to spend the next 24 hours just kind of looking at what shows up for you. Okay, so we're going to simmer on this. We're going to take a short break, but simmer on what shows up for you in that space. Again, my name is Audrey Michel, and you're listening to Rewired Life Radio. When we continue, we're going to continue this conversation to love yourself, heal your body and mind, and celebrate life. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Treat the body and expand the soul on June 1st with Lynn Brown. Imagine 3 days in a hand-built log home nestled in the Cascade Mountain. Activate the collaboration between the body and spirit and allow the accelerated connection as one of the most powerful ways to light up your cells, honor the body's needs in this all-inclusive event. Visit lynnmbrown.com or call 206-931-7356.
Be you plus live your purpose equals joy. That's the motto of Unstuck Joy with Vicki Todd. Vicki believes you were born with gifts that are meant to make the world brighter. Each show will feature an art visioning journal prompt to help you create your way to soul clarity. If you're ready to get unstuck and create more joy, this show is for you. Tune in every month on Transformation Talk Radio. For more information, visit VickiWorldArt.com.
Hey, did you know why they call the foundation the foundation? It's called the foundation because it completely eliminates your foundation for what you thought your reality was and creates a whole new space where you can have an entirely new reality that is foundationless. So from my point of view, they should call it the unfoundation or the foundationlessness. Either way, there's a big new global rewrite happening again because these guys cannot stop changing. There should be like a Change Anonymous that Gary and Dane go to. And it's happening April 28th to May 1st. You can find out about it at accessconsciousness.com/global foundation. It's happening in Paris. Go to Paris or do it online or find a pod near you. These are all the options you have. And what else is possible?
Are you traveling most of your day? Do you want to take Transformation Talk Radio with you anywhere you go? Well, guess what? There's an app for that. Just go to the App Store on your Apple device or the Google Play Store on your Android and search Transformation Talk Radio. Catch all of our live shows no matter where you are. Thanks for listening.
Is traditional medicine not working for you? Do you still feel as if your health isn't 100%? Here at the Holistic Medical Center, Dr. Nushin Darvish and the qualified staff look through the dimensions of wellness and start a healing plan prioritized to your needs. Our physicians assess the whole you until complete health is achieved. Get the help you need by visiting drdarvish.com or call 425-451-0404.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Rewired Life Radio, where we learn to love, heal, and celebrate. I'm your host, Audrey Michel, and today I am talking about acting on intuition. So for those of you new to the show, Rewired Life Radio airs on Transformation Talk Radio on Wednesdays at noon. So you can tune in by going to rewired-life-radio.com. So in the last segment, we were discussing how loving yourself is the first step in acting on intuition. So then the question becomes, how does acting on intuition help you heal? So if you remember back in the first segment, I quoted Marianne Williamson saying that pain and discomfort or anxiety, guilt, all those heavy feelings, they all stem from a separation from self. So listening and acting on intuition is actually bringing you back to yourself and therefore healing. Continually choosing not to follow intuition, whether intentionally or not, is a separation from self, and it can manifest as stress or anxiety, and if left unattended, for a longer period of time, serious health problems can occur. So I started my alternative path towards healing in 2008, and at that time I had really given up on the idea of making pain go away, this short-term need to make pain go away. And I was, previous to 2008, using pain pills and muscle relaxers in the hopes of making pain go away. So here I was in pain and drugged up, and I finally surrendered and decided if I'm going to be in pain anyway, I might as well have a clear mind and be free of side effects. And all of a sudden, it became more important to me, to know, am I the one with the crazy mood swings? Am I the one that's like tired or has dry mouth or, whatever the myriad of side effects were that I was experiencing? It was, the shift happened. The teeter-totter flipped, and all of a sudden simply making the pain go away. Like I had been trying to do that for so long that I was over it, and I was ready to do something different, and getting to know myself became more important. And so along the way, it became apparent to me that spiritual healing was also going to lead to physical healing. And as I released and reconnected to myself, I started to feel physically better. So I know on the surface, my story is one of healing a big thing, right? 17 years of chronic pain and disease is a big thing. But really, the reality of my healing journey is that it was one little thing after another, just addressing what was up for me each day. And it still is that. I still see my spiritual teacher from almost 10 years ago. I see her monthly, and it just keeps me on the tip of my toes. Years ago it was healing, and now it's just about releasing, whatever sort of stresses or whatever is up. But acting on intuition has allowed me to be aware of what is going on for me internally and spiritually. And as I've been able to honor my intuition on seemingly little things, like allowing myself to sleep more or have lunch with an old friend or be vulnerable in sharing my truth, all of this has given me the confidence and courage to act on bigger things that have come up, like taking on a task of writing a book. Like that was a 2-year journey by the time I had written it and had it edited and figured out the publishing process. 2 years. And if you would have told me at the beginning of that process, like what it all involved, I probably would have bailed. But at the time, it was like I said, the universe hit me in the back of the head and was like, you get to write a book. And so, now I'm just continuing to share my story, and listening to intuition said, now you get to share it on the radio, and you get to talk to other women, and you get to be in this healing conversation continually. And so in my coaching practice, teaching my clients to act on their intuition is a continued conversation. And most of us have some underlying fear that has built up over the years that has convinced us in one way or another that allowing ourselves to follow intuition is not safe. So uncovering this little bit of juiciness is what I do, uncovering where it is you decided that being yourself or acting on intuition or whatever it is unsafe. And so I use a variety of techniques, from quantum reset therapy to emotional release and kinesiology, meridian checking, to help my clients discover where they are stuck. But the best way I can describe my work is that if you think about if you've ever gotten like a cut on your arm or on your hand, and if you pick at it, if you never let that thing heal, do what you need to do to heal, and you just keep picking at it. Like maybe it gets close to healing, but you just keep picking that scab. That cut never heals, right? And it leaves a scar, and it's just always there. So if you take this idea and you believe in the idea of parallel universes, when it comes to psychological scars like this, or spiritual or mental, emotional scars, we can go back in that parallel universe and heal forward from the first time that cut happened. So it's not so much that we make it so the cut didn't happen. That's not the point. The point is that we go back to that first incidence of trauma or stress or just being told that you're not good enough, or however it shows up. We go back and we get what we needed from that lesson, and then we heal it forward. So a good example of this is a client of mine was always told that she was loud, like she was a loud child and was constantly being told to be quiet. So now as an adult, she's a leader in her industry, and what we've been working on is her ability to use her voice as an expert. So this is fascinating to me, right? Like she was always told to be quiet, but now she's this leader in her industry and is asked these questions and asked to speak. And for her, how this being told to be quiet stress has showed up as an adult is her feeling nervous when she was asked pointed questions, or she only shares part of her thoughts because she doesn't want to take up all of the space in the room, like let somebody else talk. But then afterwards, she was upset with herself that she didn't say more. And the interesting thing is that this didn't seem like that big of a deal to her. But what she was feeling is she would walk away from these meetings feeling a little bit upset, exhausted, or depleted, but she didn't know why. Like she hadn't made the connection between not fully sharing herself and feeling exhausted and depleted by the work she was doing. So she came to me with this question of why am I wearing out? I love my work, but I feel so exhausted. And so essentially it came down to the idea that for years she had been picking at this scab of just be quiet, you're too loud, why can't you just be quiet? She just kept picking at that from childhood through her teenage, her college, her, adult life. And it was emotionally exhausting. So what we did is, through my kinesiology work, we kind of started digging through the layers. And it's funny how it always shows up. She was just like, I'm just having these memories of being a kid, and I was always kind of fun and boisterous and bubbly and always had something to say. And those around me, whether it was her parents or her grandparents or teachers or, whatever, just kind of being like, can you be quiet? Like for just a minute, like, can you just be quiet? She's like, I keep having memories of this. And so we went through the process to identify how that was affecting her now as an adult, as a leader in her industry, she was subconsciously telling herself, like, she authentically wanted to share her ideas and share what she had learned. But that little piece of her was like, no. Nope, don't say that. Don't say too much. Don't take up too much space in the room, because that would be annoying for people, right? So she's got these little voices in the back of her head that she's not hearing anymore because it's become such a thick pattern and was wearing her out. And so we were able to heal those voices from her childhood and heal it forward. So now when she's in meetings, she's able to authentically express herself, and she's coming home and not feeling tired like she had been before. So it's super powerful to be able to act on her intuition and know, like, something isn't right. Like, this is the work that I love, but I'm tired. So why is that? So again, our work was able to peel back layers and discover how years ago she decided it was safer to be quiet and it was safer to keep her opinions to herself. But while it seemed safer, because that's what she had been taught, how her patterns had laid out, like, just be quiet, it wasn't her true self. She wasn't able to live as her true self. In that she wasn't sharing ideas and creating and collaborating. So we recognized how this pattern was created, and then we're able to go through a process of letting it go. And now she's able to operate as her current age, right? When she gets asked questions, she doesn't go back to like 5-year-old her. She's able to be, 35-year-old herself and conduct herself as a businesswoman in these situations. So it's super powerful, being able to intuitively feel that something is off and then have the tools to figure out how to move past that. So again, the key in that situation is she was able to listen to her intuition, and then she also knew that she did not have the tools to move past it. So that's where I came in. So if you have a story like this, if you're interested in moving past what's holding you back, let's talk. You can learn more about my work if you go to audreymichel.com. And again, there's free tools, free meditations, my book, my class. We can work one-on-one, lots of different ways to work through whatever is holding you back. So we have to take a quick break again. My name is Audrey Michel, and you're listening to Rewired Life Radio. And as we go to break, I want to share my tips for acting on intuition. If you go to audreymichel.com/tips, there are free downloads, and you can get started on your journey as well. So again, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Did you know that all of the shows on the Transformation Radio Network are available as podcasts to stream or download?
Really?
Check us out. Go to transformationradio.fm. We have business shows, spiritual shows, energy healing shows, and pretty much everything in between. Something for everyone, guaranteed to inspire, educate, and transform. We are transforming the world, one listener at a time.
Are you feeling stagnant or blocked in your love life, career, health, or finances? Experiencing difficulty focusing or setting and achieving goals? Tune in to Spiritual Diagnostics Radio with psychic visionary healers Carol Dorian and Justice Welling. Discover the cause and effect of unwanted patterns in life. Tune in every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. For more information, visit spiritualdeed.com.
What is a brilliant culture, and how do we create them? Why are they important? Claudette Rowley has created a breakthrough 5-step process to help you align your culture with your business strategy for exceptional results. Looking for a culture that drives organizational excellence? Listen to Cultural Brilliance Radio, the second and fourth Friday of each month at 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern on Transformation Talk Radio. To learn more or work with Claudette, visit culturalbrilliance.com.
Hi, this is Ted Winslow, founder of SoundSync Tech, the next generation of sound healing frequency technologies. I'm excited to join Dr. Bree Gibbs, host of the Silver Gaia radio show on Transformation Talk Radio. And as a show of appreciation to all the listeners, I'm offering 20% off my sound healing music. Please go to tedwinslow.com and use the coupon code SilverGaia. Looking forward to connecting with you soon.
Tune in to the Psychic Professors Show, The Voices of Spirit Radio, with international medium and spirit artist Dr. Susan Barnes on Transformation Talk Radio, featuring a variety of spiritual topics such as psychic art, spiritualism, EVP, psychic development, and mediumship. This hit call-in show provides listeners with breakthrough wisdom to enliven and enlighten their lives. Visit spiritartgallery.net for show days and times.
Wow. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. This is Talk Radio to Thrive By. I'm telling you, I got to pinch myself some days, because when each of us gets called to do something that we so not thought was in our wheelhouse to do for a purpose that's so much greater than us, we get to show up and shine.
If you would like to show up and shine on the Dr. Pat Show as a co-host or sponsor, send us an email to inspire@thedrpatshow.com.
Hi there. So we are back on Rewired Life Radio, where we learn to love, heal, and celebrate. I'm your host, Audrey Michel, and we have spent today talking about not only empowering women to heal, but how to act on your intuition. So first of all, I want to thank you all for joining me today. I have to be honest, I was super nervous about doing a show entirely by myself. I was like terrified that I was going to run out of content and there'd just be dead air, whatever my fear was that showed up. So thank you for tuning in. Okay, so I have a few questions that I like to ask all of my guests. So I thought it was only fair that I share my answers during this fourth segment where I like to celebrate accomplishments. So the first question I like to ask my guests is, what have you accomplished in your life because of your belief and ability to come back to living at a higher vibration? So honestly, everything about Rewired Life is because of my ability to listen to inner wisdom. I mean, if you want to go back as far as my ability to get off medication and heal and be pain and symptom and medication free, it's all because of intuition. It's all because of that day, cereal bowl day, where literally like the little tiny voice of intuition that I had been ignoring for so long, like finally had the space to like raise its little hand and be like, hey, you're in pain anyway. So obviously the pain pills aren't helping. Like, what if you just stop taking them? And for the first time, I was just like, yeah, you're freaking right. Like, I'm so over it. I'm so over like being drugged up and tired and sleeping and numb and just missing out on my life, just being drugged up to the point where I was missing out on my life, that I was just like, yeah, what do I have to lose? I'm in a pain level of 10 anyway, so I might as well be in a pain level of 10 and at least like not be drugged up. So it really started then. And then obviously listening to inner wisdom and saying yes to the universe showed up as a book. And the funny part is, like, I can't spell, I'm terrible at grammar, and I like love ending sentences with a preposition. Like, my English abilities are not what you would imagine when you think of somebody writing a book. But again, the universe hit me in the back of the head and was like, you got to write this thing. So, I got to spend my days in conversation about healing, and it's been amazing. But yeah, then the next thing was like, when I was done doing all the things that my book required, I created a class to share my process, which is, again, is long and tedious. And, but I just kept saying yes and kept showing up. And then, of course, when the class was created and shared, this radio show showed up. So it's just been saying yes to the next thing that shows up and acting on intuition and saying yes. So the next question I like to ask my guests is for them to share with us how they start each day. How do you set intentions at the beginning of your day that allow you the space and ability to act on your intuition? So my mornings, I have to tell you, I'm not a morning person. Like, mornings are not my best quality. I hate waking up before 7:30, and quite honestly, it's more like 8:30. I like to joke that if it's before 7 o'clock in the morning, there better be like an airplane to a beach in my future. Because on a daily basis, it's like a coal train trying to wake me up and get me going. But if I'm being honest, like, the first thing I need to do is I have to meditate. I wake up, finally like peel my eyeballs open, and I sit up and I meditate. So in early 2014, my husband and I both actually learned Transcendental Meditation, TM for short. And it's changed my life. And it was really interesting because I don't know about you, but the idea of meditation seemed to be romanticized, maybe about similarly to the idea of spiritual awakening. For me, that meditation was just like this Zen, butterflies in a garden space. And, I was going to learn to meditate, and things were going to be sunshine and happy faces and unicorns. And it was not. I mean, it was at the beginning. Like, my first month was incredible, and I got hooked, and I was like, God, I feel so connected and so great. And then about 3 months into it, this happened a few times now, my face broke out like crazy, like plaque psoriasis, eczema, something going on. And I was far enough along in my spiritual journey to be like, okay, this isn't like a dermatology issue. This is like years worth of crud manifesting and coming out of my body. And so I go back to my TM teacher, and I'm like, I am a hot mess here. Like, I am angry, and thank goodness my husband did this too, because I was able to be like, I'm not mad at you. I am just like mad. I am just angry. Like, please don't take this personally, but it is just spewing out of me in every direction. And he was just like, yeah, okay, got it. So I go back to my TM teacher, and I'm like, we got to do something. So we backed off the meditation. And so I was literally meditating like 1 minute a day instead of 20 minutes twice a day. But I was able to get rid of all of that stuff. It was like the meditation gave my body and spirit this space to let go of all of the stresses that had been collecting over, 2 decades of pain and disease. And my body was just like a fire hose of just like, sweet, we are going to get rid of this. But then my body was just like, wait a minute, that's a little too stressful. So we backed it off. And then, it's been a few years now, and I'm back to a regular meditation. But I do, if I'm feeling pain in my body, if I meditate for 20 minutes, I feel like a whole new person. So in the morning, I do my meditation, and then I journal. And I tend to start with this statement, and I share this with my clients, encourage them to do the same. I write, and this comes straight from like Gabby Bernstein, Marianne Williamson, A Course in Miracles. What would you have me do? And it's this free write. I call it my morning pages, but it's this way of connecting to higher self. What would you have me do? And just allowing the universe or Buddha or God or whatever you identify with as a higher power to come through you. And so some days, like, brilliance spills out, and I get great content that I want to talk about on the show. And other days it's like super mundane, random things of like, a to-do list. And then sometimes it turns into like unanswered questions that I let and simmer. But that's my way of getting started. I meditate, and then I journal. And then I'm up and going, and I come downstairs, and I let Olive out of her kennel, and we have our little, I call it brain scratches. I, scratch her ears, and she loves it. And then we start our day. And that's what I do. So, so you guys, the time has come. I can't believe an hour has gone by. I am honored to have shared this space with you, and thank you so, so much for hanging out with me. So Rewired Life is about creating a new nervous system, one choice at a time, moment by moment. With a new nervous system, you become a new person looking at the world with new glasses. So if you're ready to look at the world differently, let's talk. You can go to my website, audreymichel.com. All of my information is there. You can set up a free consultation and sign up for some of my quick tools for learning how to listen to your body. So thank you all for tuning in to Rewired Life Radio on the Transformation Talk Radio Network. I had a wonderful time. Please join me every Wednesday at noon at rewired-life-radio.com. Next week, we will be talking to naturopath Dr. Nadine. She's going to join me in discussing how to stay grounded in your feminine energy. It's going to be awesome. So have a great week, you guys, and tune in next Wednesday for more Rewired Life Radio.
You've been listening to Rewired Life Radio. Learn to love, heal, celebrate with author, speaker, and spiritual growth coach Audrey Michel. You can listen live each Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Download the podcast and connect with Audrey at audreymichel.com. That's Audrey Michel, spelled Michel.com.